This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here are your hosts, Jeff Gardner and Sean Preston.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on with us, and that is Teena Sauve of Botree Inc. How are you today?
I'm great, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, the sun is starting to poke out now, so that's one checkbox, and maybe a couple of degrees warmer, maybe like 15, somewhere in there would be pretty good.
Yeah, the snow I was not happy to see this morning, so I feel like it should be spring. I'm ready for summer.
So am I. Going to get a little bit of a taste of that. Unfortunately, for those who can't make it, Jeff and I will be down in Mexico next week for a week. We're doing about 28 in sun. I looked at the forecast, so we're looking forward to getting out of Dodge and soaking up some of that vitamin D.
Amazing. I'm envious for sure.
Well, enough about that. And I've never had an opportunity to meet you before, which is great because I love to let curiosity lead the conversation. And for those who aren't aware, I've never met you before, don't know about your business. Why don't we dive right into it? Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you guys do and who you are?
So our business is Botree, as Sean mentioned, and we have been in business for the last 9 years. We actually were established 16 years ago, but we rebranded and did a bunch of things that you're supposed to do about 9 years ago. And so really, I think the best way to say who we are is if you think about all those years of either being in school and or being in corporate training, and just think about how boring training is, how outdated and ineffective it is, you forget probably about 75% of what you learned within 48 hours. And basically at 1 month later, you've resorted to all of your traditional habits. Botree fixes all of that. And I think more from a personal perspective, I spent 20 plus years aging myself in the corporate space. And I despised training. I was responsible for procuring it for my teams. I was accountable for attending and then accountable for coaching. And I despised it. And so I think what we've been able to do over the last 9 years is really become leaders in the space of helping organizations understand that your human capital, highest number on your P&L.
For those who don't know what the P&L.
Oh, sorry. Profit and loss. It's just about you've got all these great humans on your team, and if you actually invest in them and help them upskill, they can perform way beyond what you actually think is capable. So that's what Botree does.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that into a bow just to make sure that I understand. So essentially providing training to businesses who have teams to help them, whether it's a new product launch, a new system that gets implemented. Do you tailor to kind of specific industries? What level of range are we talking about from size of business that you guys, what's within that sphere there?
Great question, Sean. So we basically straddled two pillars within an organization. And so we have stellar instructional design teams. So we've also designed our own proprietary methodology to design training. And so in the event that an organization is looking to launch a product or improve their onboarding or decrease the amount of time it takes to get somebody into a technical role, which is generally a big challenge because we just sort of follow the job shadowing mode. We have a lot of business in that space where we are redesigning individual content, so very personalized, bespoke training. And then we have a plug and play, proven system, I'm going to call it, more of a system that allows an organization to really remove a lot of the burden of trying to figure out how to upskill your team, and really taking those corporate objectives and realigning how people actually level up, which is where the brand comes from, or upskill within their organization that is directly linked to those corporate objectives. And I think that's a really unique, it's a unique system, because typically, I always say this, that everybody knows we should be training our employees. Every employee who sits in an interview across the table asks what that training looks like. The employer describes what it looks like, whether it is what happens or not. It's always part of the interview process. It's a norm. And the reality is that companies struggle to pay for it because it doesn't work. They know they have to offer it. An employee knows that they're supposed to ask that question. And then when training is put in front of them, they typically don't want to attend. So if you just think about this, and I feel like most people can resonate with the whole corporate training, doing my compliance, check a box, watch a video, do 8 other things while I'm trying to get my compliance checkbox. We have solved that in a plug and play operational system.
That sounds very interesting. There's also the component of from how I'm understanding it, if I'm a business owner and I'm having problem with turnover and I don't necessarily have a robust training structure in place, you're bringing somebody on board, then the training is not happening, then you lose that employee. It's like you're doing all of this work just to potentially lose them at the end, versus, how professional does that sound when you're in an interview to say, this is the training, this is exactly how it works, it's super robust, we've had plenty of people come through the training, and these are the people now that have been promoted within the company. We have a growing company. The culture here is this. I mean, let's talk about the culture aspect from that, right? You find the right individual and that has the capabilities. Now you put them through a robust training program, and then you let them flourish within that culture that you've created. That's only going to benefit every other aspect of the business, because you have such a great culture and people know their assigned tasks, their roles, and what they're supposed to do.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better. I think that the other piece to it is you did ask a question around size of company. And I think it's a tricky one for us, because I believe that the way our system works, it's really built around social learning theory. I won't get into that. If anybody's interested, I can geek totally out on that. But one of the biggest parts of how we learn is we actually learn from each other. So companies that offer, sort of off-the-shelf training where they come in and do the training, unfortunately, the intellectual knowledge is left with that actual trainer. So our methodology really allows that intellectual knowledge to remain within the organization, because really the best, when rubber hits the road is, Sean, you and I learn a theory together and we go out and we try to apply that theory. We have a different perception of the theory. We have a different way of activating that theory in our workforce. And then we come back together and we're like, holy, Sean, you did it that way? That worked, that didn't work. And then I share mine, and you can imagine sort of that cumulative conversation around an organization. And so then it creates stickiness, right? Because we're not just all trying to apply this very didactic, speaking to me sort of feeling. Yeah. We've gone out, we've done it, and we're like, that didn't work for me because it didn't authentically meet who I am. So size-wise, the reason I say that is because we're really targeted to companies that are 50 or more employees. However, if an organization is linked to a innovation hub or a chamber, we're working really diligently with the chambers to have these programs available within the local chambers.
Beautiful. Okay, let's get to know you a little bit. Everybody's got their journey into getting to what they're doing. And so I'm super curious to ask you, what was that journey like? You talked a lot about the corporate world for a very long time. Maybe share with our listeners that journey. What was that journey like leading up to Botree?
I have a really fun journey. One that usually requires a cocktail after I spit it out, because there's more questions than there is answers in what I'm about to say. So I started my career in the Canadian Armed Forces. I was an infantry soldier, spent my time in Petawawa, and there's a really beautiful story behind that, because there was a big reason why I did it. And it was really for my best friend who was my grandfather, who fought in World War II and was a prisoner of war in World War II. And honestly, I did it because I wanted to say thank you to him for all that he had done to give me the life that I had. It slightly backfired on me, by the way, Sean, because my grandfather was an old Englishman who believed that women should not voluntarily put themselves in those situations. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I was capable of. And so that's sort of where my journey started. And I think that from there, I left the Canadian Armed Forces and I went back to school to become a registered nurse, not affiliated with the military, but I got so much exposure in the military to all the things that I had a little bit of interest in. And thankfully, they were open to letting me try all kinds of different things. I even got to be do a sniper program for a while. So it was super cool, right? Like learn how to kill them and then learn how to fix them, which is basically what I learned. So I went back to school to become a registered nurse. I graduated and I went back to school again to become a critical care nurse. I clearly like change. Did some clinical bedside nursing, loved that career. However, not a real political person. So unfortunately, I think that healthcare is still a very political space. So I left bedside nursing, went and worked in manufacturing in the healthcare space for equipment, so medical equipment. And I was a clinical nurse in that space. Had an amazing president at the time. And I had this wild idea and he let me go out and do it. And again, I could bore the details, but just to date myself, I had to go to the library to look up how to build a business plan. I did not have a computer. And I was building a strategy for this organization, and there were 8 of us in the company. And when I left that company, there were 87 salespeople, I believe, and 5 regional managers. And so it was a really exciting journey. I went into biologics, pharmaceutical, really tried to stay in the space, but to make an impact. And then 8 years ago, decided to go totally on my own with Botree. And the biggest reason why I did that was I also run a not-for-profit. I decided to run a not-for-profit, start a business, and have children all at the same time. Wow. So needless to say, somehow, miraculously, I managed to do all of that, work a corporate career in the biologics space and do a ton of traveling. I had 3 babies all in that period of time, and woke up one day and realized that I was probably going to either crash and burn really, really young, or even worse, not be there to really see my children grow up and be a part of their life. And so it was kind of that moment where you realize that success comes in many different forms.
100%.
money isn't always, any entrepreneurs out there know that you surely don't get into entrepreneurship to get rich fast. It's a lifestyle first, and then you got to reevaluate everything. And so it's been a hard journey, but probably the best thing that I ever did, because I have a really great relationship with my 3 kids and my husband. My gosh, I can't forget about my husband, because for all those years that I did all these things, he was the primary caregiver. So he stayed home with our children. And so mathematically, do the math on that. I had 3 babies. I was the only income earner running all these different things. And so we did without things, but we had, like, I always say I'm the most successful. I'm richer than I could ever imagine, because of my friends, my family, and just where we are today. So
very well said. I think a lot of people can relate to that. First of all, thank you for your service.
Oh.
Very cool.
Yes.
I'm fascinated with World War II. I've played most of the video games. I've dove into a bunch of documentaries. I'm getting married in June.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. The honeymoon, we picked, one of the destinations is to go to Malta because of the rich World War II history there. Of course, it's got some super old, like, Roman history, which I'm fascinated with as well. But we wanted to also do, like, a leg up to France and do Normandy Beach. Yes. But unfortunately, the budget didn't allow us to do both of those legs in one trip. So that's still on my bucket list. So very fascinated. I had a grandfather and a great grandfather in the World Wars as well. So super kind of connected to that topic, and very fascinated with, how everything went down and the importance of those sacrifices that allow us to live the lives that we live today, which is super, super important. But man, what a story. We've done 400 podcasts now. You get to know all different walks of life, and you never know, right? Most of the guests that come on the show, we've never met before. That's a very, very fascinating journey that you've had. Just really, really, really cool. I think a lot of people are going to resonate, especially with, at the end with what you said about being rich inside, that money is not the definition of success. There's a bunch of different ways that you can define success, but at the end of the day, it's the people that you hold the closest, the people that you care about, your little tribe, and health, of course, are two
for sure
factors there. So,
oh my gosh, I love your honeymoon idea. Normandy, I mean, listen, we could geek out, like, not on this podcast, but just about all the things that I have had exposure to because of my passion around World War II as well. So that's awesome. I wish you the best honeymoon, and getting married is just such a special, special moment. So I hope that you take it all in, because sometimes you get over, like, it all gets taken over by the frill of the wedding. And it really is those, like, moments where you're just you and your partner connected. So
yeah, super pumped for that. Let's nerd out a little bit. Yes. I do want to nerd out for just a little bit.
Yeah.
This is the cool part about, for those who do have some of that knowledge base, and maybe some that don't. And I'm sure they're probably going to learn a couple of things. And I'm super fascinated to want to know a little bit more. So what would be, like, a couple of things that you were talking about you got exposed to with the World War II stuff?
So it's super cool. So my grandfather, I mean, obviously this was all through the lens of my grandfather. So he met my grandmother in England, and there's a really funny story about them. But anyways, they ended up getting married, and they had, I'm trying to think how many children had they had. My dad is a twin, a fraternal twin. And so so him and his brother, and then his other brother, and they came to Canada so my grandfather came here to give a better life. And when he came to Canada, I actually went back to Halifax to get the papers of because I knew that was where they came through, was in Halifax. So I have the papers from when my dad and my uncles came to Canada. And my grandfather said that he was a dairy farmer. He totally lied on his papers to come into Canada. And so fast forward, I guess back in those days, like if you were a child of a war vet, you kind of like, I guess in the playgrounds, you'd like kind of brag about what your parents did in the war. And so it wasn't until my dad was 26 that he knew what my grandfather actually did. So my grandfather told his kids that he was a cook in the army. And so when my dad found out that my dad was actually a paratrooper, so he was the British Airborne, and like I mentioned, he was a prisoner of war, and his stories are just, he didn't ever share stories until he got near his, at the end of his life. But the reason he never shared what he actually did is because he believed that every person that contributed to World War II were equally as important, and that their role in the war should not determine or be the sort of who they were. Like everybody had a part. And so I guess it would have been like brag righty to be able to say my dad was a paratrooper in World War II. And so my grandfather never wanted that to be the thing. Wow. So my dad actually, after my grandfather passed away, my dad did a whole journey. He went to Normandy. He actually followed the entire path that my grandfather did in World War II, where he was in the war camp, where he was actually saved by a German 17-year-old boy who ended up getting shot to save my grandfather. So like, I think, like I said, I could just the stories of like, of that journey that he went on. And because my dad followed basically that same pathway, and he, I don't know if I should say this on camera, but he had some of his ashes with him because there was a specific tree that my grandfather in Vimy that for some reason that there was this very specific tree, and my dad found that tree and had somebody actually pull up facts about my grandfather as well. So it's just it's almost like it's like such a intense journey, and I think, given the landscape, the world that we're living in right now, I do say sometimes, I'm like, my gosh, how could all of this stuff be going on in my lifetime? And there are still people who were born and lived. Now, less people who actually fought because just
time.
Yeah. But can you imagine being in a world war and still being alive today and seeing, the capabilities of AI? Like I just think about like how amazing we are as humans to be able to like actually go through all of that and still be a contributor in daily life. It's a fascinating, like I said, I love history, and I love seeing how you don't, I can't remember that whole throw one seashell back into the ocean. There's that whole, you don't think you can make a difference in the world. Right. But it is like, the more you think you can't make a difference, the more you won't make a difference. And if you just go out and make one incremental change in the world, you can contribute. And I think that if you think back to the war times, if people didn't think they could make a difference, nobody would have ever signed up. Nobody would have ever thought that one action or that one thing that they could do could make a difference in the world. And so I just have respect for everybody. There's people still fighting today for well, I mean, geez, we're definitely fighting now today in a very different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like it's kind of it's a full circle opportunity to kind of look back and think about the pride. My grandfather had so much pride, and every Remembrance Day I used to march with him, and he was like, I used to say, Grandpa, you're like famous, like paparazzi. People would take pictures of him because of his maroon beret.
Okay.
So I guess like older people knew that beret was the link to their safety in their own countries. And I just think, man, he never would have known that would have happened to him. And so I try really hard to like live my life so authentically that I can make those incremental changes that maybe you don't think will make a difference today, but long term they will. So
what a fascinating journey. I would love to do something like that, go and follow the actual, what transpired. That is incredibly fascinating to me, and very well said. I certainly think that there'll be some people listening to the show that can definitely take away some life perspectives from that conversation. So that was fun to nerd out. A lot of value.
Excellent. Thanks for letting me do it.
Oh, don't tempt me. We could do this all day. Okay, so maybe let's go through. Are there any like myths, any misconceptions that maybe you want to clear the air when it comes to what you do out there for businesses?
Sure do, Sean. Sure do. I think the biggest myth, and it's, I don't even know if it's a myth. It's an actual fact today. And I think that if there was anything that I would put out to organizations today that have any employees, is that our labor capacity is not growing. We definitely have the opportunity for global workforce, which I think is, one of those silver linings of COVID, which I hate to talk about, but I do think that it has definitely opened up opportunities to really bring in different diverse voices and a different workforce. However, we still have a majority of our workforce that requires like physical hands-on. We look at all the manufacturing and trades. These are businesses that can't go away today. And these are not sexy careers. These are not things that are, like my 11-year-old son isn't thinking, "Ooh, I want to go in and like hammer a nail for a living."
Right.
And I think it's really sad because we need all of these careers. And part of the reason I believe that we're struggling is because there has been a lack of investment back in to particularly those maybe some of those careers that we sort of see as more blue collar workers. And I despise that term, but it's the only way I can kind of get it across. And I think that the reality is that what you invest in your team, if you find the right company to provide you with the right investment, not only will you see a direct effect to your bottom line, you will see a more engaged workforce. You will see a more collaborative workforce. You will see people will be willing to take risks and bring new innovation to your company. And Canada, I love Canada. I'm a proud Canadian.
Same.
I will say we suck at innovation. We actually are like worldwide, we like dominate in creating innovation. But we don't use the innovation. It's fascinating to me. Like we literally, like the godfather of AI is, I believe, Canadian. We are one of the slowest adopters for AI. We are so conservative that we have organizations that are risk averse. Like in today's world, like what I said yesterday probably changed today because of what's happening in the world. And if we don't invest more in our human capital in this country, we are going to be in serious trouble. And the reality is that, again, only based on my knowledge, worldwide, we have, like, from a government grant perspective, we have some of the highest dollar numbers being offered to businesses in grants, which you can see as a positive or a negative. I think it's a little bit of both because we don't have enough accountability in the dollars that are spent. Right. But I know, as an example, because it's personal to us in the training space, more money was pushed out by the federal government to support upskilling. They just keep tossing money out, but without really, like, accountability back. Or just because you have more money doesn't mean that the execution of what you're spending the money on is going to change. Like, the outcomes don't necessarily change. It just means now you have more money to make the same executable outcomes that have already not worked. Right. So I think that, to me, is, if there was any message out there, I would say invest in your people. They will return. They will return that investment back to you. And if they don't, you'll know it really fast, and then you get rid of them. But if you don't invest and you just constantly think, I talk to some clients that literally say to me, we don't do training because if the person doesn't know how to do the job, we let them go. We go hire someone who does know the job. And this is a very typical, like, of my vintage, my age vintage. That's how we grew up. That's, like, if you couldn't cut it, you didn't have a job. And we now have millennials and Gen Zs in our workforce, and they are fast and furious. And if we don't change the way we perceive investment into our human capital, there's going to be a lot of companies left behind. So I don't know if that's a myth or I just preached. I just got on my soapbox.
I learned some things from that. The things that you can learn just by having all the different types of businesses on the show. It's wild. And so not so much, I think, about maybe the initial question, but I resonated with that. And I don't have a business that has 500 employees. I've been personally up and down the corporate ladder in a bunch of different jobs. And so I'm quite familiar with a lot of the things that you're saying, can very much relate to that, from how I was treated to, the lack of training. I've been fortunate enough to be very street smart. So I can adapt really quick, and I learn well from others. I don't learn well from books. So I'm kind of unique in that way, which allowed me to kind of propel up the ladder and learn the things I've learned in my life, but also being able to see the negative that sometimes can come in the corporate world from, like, things that we're talking about, from how we're getting treated to lack of training, no culture, the wrong people in management that shouldn't be there and don't have the people skills. I was 21 years old in my first outside sales role, and I had a bully. I was bullied my whole life, but then, of course, I get in the workforce, get another one. He gave me the shingles, gave me a stomach ulcer. At 21 years old, cry on the phone all the time. I had to change my buzzer on my BlackBerry at the time because it would buzz twice and then ring. And I had to change it. So if it buzzed once, it was the text message. If it buzzed twice, I knew I was going to get a call because my text message was buzzing twice. And I had so much anxiety I couldn't handle because it might have been my boss who was going to call and yell at me on the phone for, something, instead of taking me under his wing, letting me flourish. There's just no care for it. It's more of pointing the finger, telling you what to do. So I can completely relate to a lot of the things that you're saying.
You know what, Sean? It's so sad. And I think about this, like, often. It's probably subconsciously why I ended up in this space, because the amount of times that I would take over a new team, and the very first message as I was taking over this new team was, okay, so this person and this person, we want you to get rid of them. And I just was like, what? Like, I don't even, do they have, like why? What have we done to support them? Do we know, is this a will or a skill issue? Like zero analysis or hard data, or, in my opinion, a bunch of wimps that couldn't face. They either didn't know themselves. And listen, I run a small team, and I can actually tell you, and maybe my team will see this and then they will. We had a situation recently, and I became not a great leader. Like I was not a great leader. I was stressed, and I allowed my negativity and my own behavior to be shown to the team. And I had one brave young person on my team who actually is still in university, and she is planning on working full-time in May. And she responded to my message very authentically, and it hurt. But I am so grateful because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see how I was making everyone else feel because I was caught in my own, I was caught in my own vortex. And it allowed me, because I have the right culture, to allow people to, respectfully share how they're feeling.
Have a voice.
And and we're humans. And guess what? What I would say, from what I said prior, these are no longer the days where an employer has I'm terrible at those expressions or whatever, but employers don't have the card anymore. This really is an employee's world where you should be sitting and you should be interviewing that organization, and you should be making sure that you feel healthy and safe. And that, because guess what? When people are psychologically health and wellness way, positively, that did not come out right, they perform whether they have the skill or not. They're willing to learn the skill. You just have to create that environment for them. And by no means am I saying, there's still underperformers and there's still people who take advantage both on an employer and an employee basis. I do believe that is significantly the minority of our population. Majority of people want to do well. They just need somebody to believe in them. And fun fact for you, Sean, is, and I can send it to you if you can't find it, but I love what you said. And if you looked up Pygmalion management, the Pygmalion theory, if you've never heard of it, it is probably one of the best leadership, in my opinion, one of the best leadership frameworks that is out there. And it's about, if you believe in people, what you believe what you believe they can achieve is what they will achieve. And and I always say that even you're on your way to marriage. I'm not sure if you have children yet, but if you do or you don't, or you want to or you don't want to, I always use this as the context. It's the same. When I'm going on about how, mouthy one of my kids is, guess what? They just get mouthier. But if I believe that they have the possibility to be kind and give them that vessel to be able to talk through their feelings and their emotions, they show up as better humans in the world. And I don't think it's any different for kids than it is for adults. Another
Love all
soapbox.
that. Please do send that to me. I'm planning on being a dad.
Okay.
Either, it's, I think, one of the greatest honors that you could have. Jeff said this before. I totally agree with him. It's being able to bring a boy or a girl into the world and be there for them and help them grow into a human being a dad. So, and I do love leadership. I've been a leader before in the corporate world, but no one teaches you how to be a dad. No one says you're ready for it. You just kind of do it. So to read up on some material of little things that I could put in the memory bank as a skill set to prepare me for that, I'm definitely down for all of that. So
I love it. I will send it to you because the original theory was built off of grade 2 students. So
Really?
it actually comes from a child, it comes from a children's researched project that has now, many, many decades later, like morphed into a corporate sort of like adult learning theory. So
Love it.
yes, it's the best thing you'll ever do. And you get you get a second chance at being a great human because you can produce another human. So that's what I
I
would
love
say.
that. That's so great. Okay, so let's talk about what you like to do for fun when you're not working on or in your business. What do you like to do for fun?
Oh my goodness. So I have the best girlfriends, literally, like the best girlfriends in the world. And so, I mean, obviously I love spending time with my family. So I hope that I am not saying I prefer my friends over my family. But my family is very active. So I spend a lot of time on the side of mountains, either in the snow or in the summer, because my kids are downhill mountain bikers competitively, and they're also freestyle, slopestyle snowboarders. And then my eldest daughter is a horseback rider. So I spend a lot of time outside watching sports that, in my humble opinion, could kill them, because I don't understand why they need to do all this adrenaline stuff. But my girlfriends, I couldn't even tell you what we do, Sean, because we just laugh. I literally I can spend like a couple of days, we go on an annual trip every year just for like a long weekend. And every time my husband's like, what did you do? And I'm like, honestly, like we saw this site, did this, laughed. Like there is nothing better than laughing.
I couldn't agree with that anymore. That's joy and laughter.
Yeah.
One of the keys to happiness.
Yeah. The only other thing I do for fun, I would say, is I have a beautiful rescue dog. And her and I love to hike together. I'm sure people would think I was crazy because I talked to her the entire hike. But yeah, I kind of like to hike. I like to be outside. But I love laughing. That's probably my most favorite thing. Like if I can get in a good giggle, it's
Yeah,
good.
I think we're cut from the same cloth there. Love the outdoors, love laughing. I don't know. So I'm just who I am. I seem like my fiance is laughing out almost every second word that comes out of my mouth. But we like giggling together and having a good time. And any chance we can get outside. I mean, being in nature, being connected out there, especially when the weather is nice, soaking up that vitamin D. It's a key to finding that harmony between the busy world that we live in and the technological advancements that are changing rapidly every day, and the busy world that we live in with all of the stuff that's going on all over the world. It's nice to just kind of take a step back from the craziness a little bit, just kind of enjoy it, even if your son is flying a bazillion miles a minute down a mountain on a bicycle.
Yep. He's doing what he loves. And so, my daughter, his older sister, they do it together. So it's a really beautiful thing to see, them both together. But it also means times 2 the anxiety. So
I hear you.
yeah.
I might have a dosage of that, I'm sure, when I get to become a dad at some point throughout that process. So I'll eventually get there, and I'll know what you're talking about. Okay, so what's one thing that you wish our listeners knew about your business? If you only could pick one thing, no cheating.
Yeah. One thing. Ugh. Oh, this is tricky. So I would say, honestly, the one thing is that we make learning fun.
That is cool, because I'm a great example of this. because growing up and going through school, it wasn't fun for me, especially early, like we're talking about like grade 2, like learning how to read, grade 3. I remember the classroom still vividly, and I remember the struggles I was having through it, and it wasn't fun for me, so I didn't want to learn it. Whereas, now we're learning about marketing every single day, and I'm super passionate, but I love it. It's easier for me to learn because I have an interest in it. So to be able to take a human being and give them the ability to learn in a fun way, it goes so far, in my opinion. And I can say that because I've been through that, where it's not fun to learn versus when it is fun. And it makes the world a difference.
Sean, I know we're probably running out of time, but I have to tell you this one story because you like hit a little chord for me. Seriously love what I do. I can't even believe, like, it's so silly. Sometimes people look at me and I'm like, I know who can like get so excited about training or develop it. Really, to me, it's not training, it's developing people. So we have a really great client, and I am going to call them out because everybody should know who they are, and that is Community Builders. They are a local company. We've worked with them for years, and
check out their podcast.
Okay, was it Brandon who did the podcast?
Yeah.
Hey, so I love Brandon, and
I got to do his podcast. Beautiful human being.
So perfect. So go check out Community Builders podcast while I say what I'm saying. So we've done a lot of work with them. We did a big training program. It's a long story, but we had in this one training program, like the full organization. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll know what that full organization looks like. I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen to it. And 3 of the gentlemen that were in that program came up and talked to me after. And one of them said, in front of his 2 friends, he said, I know this is going to sound super cheesy. He said, but you have no idea the difference you made in my life with this training program. And I was like, what? Like, I'm a softie. So I was like, what? And he said, my whole life, I felt stupid. And I don't like that word, but that is the word he used. He said, all growing up, he said, I had no confidence. I never believed that I could become anything. And again, if you know Community Builders, you will also know that a lot of these people end up in places that none of us would want to. And this particular person linked it back to his education. And he said, it was the first time in my life somebody showed me that I could learn. And I literally was like, I was very emotional. I thought, who in their right mind could walk around the world and say, hey, we developed training and it changes people's lives? Because it's just sounded so silly. And then I thought about it, and I went back and really thought about it. And in fact, between that conversation and something else that had happened with another training company or client of ours, we went back and made sure that all of our programs were as AODA compliant as possible. And what that means is really being accessible to people who have learning disabilities, hearing impairments, visual impairments. And because of those people who had the courage to come and say to us, hey, like, I loved what I did because it changed the way I look at learning, it made us go back and really want to invest even more into how can we make this even more accessible, more fun, more exciting, and be really aligned with being that learner-led versus making people feel intimidated because maybe they don't learn the same way as the person next to them. So yeah, that's my story.
Great story. That's, helping people, changing lives. leaving the world a better place. Everybody's got a product, a service, come into business to help solve problems. But to be able to not only solve problems, but to be able to change a view, change a life, help somebody in a really deep, meaningful way is, for me anyways, one of the reasons why I get out of bed every single day. So very cool story.
Yeah.
Well, that was rock solid conversation. I had a lot of fun with you on the show. I definitely think there's going to be some people that are interested, that want to connect with you, reach out, learn a little bit more about what you're doing out there. And so for those who are, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and reach you?
You can reach out to info, I-N-F-O, at Botree, B-O-T-R-E-E, Inc, I-N-C.com. And we're there.
Beautiful stuff. Again, great conversation. The pleasure was all mine this time. Really loved what we talked about. The history of World War II is so fascinating. Everything that you're doing out there in the community, changing people's lives. Great personality, great person. It's a pleasure of mine to get to know another awesome business owner in our community. So thank you for coming on the show, and wishing you all the best out there.
Thank you so much, Sean. The pleasure was mine as well.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com, or call 705-413-3775.